What's good? All right. Today we're going to talk about my LeBlanc list. I've been criticizing a lot of other people's deck lists and not actually posting my own. So let's actually go through my own deck list. Now, LeBlanc is going to be new from Unleashed. Super cool legend. Um, I was gonna relate it to Magic because Magic has like tokens and stuff that you can copy and make. So if you've played Magic, then LeBlanc is like very similar to like a some sort of card that makes more tokens, but with like kind of a unique spin on it. So let's read LeBlanc. When you conquer or hold, you may discard one and exhaust me to play a ready reflection unit token there. It becomes a copy of another unit there. Give it temporary. And so LeBlanc can make token copies of your units whenever you conquer or hold, which is a super unique legend that we haven't seen uh, even anything close to, I think, yet, off the top of my head. So it's an interesting, like, you want kind of like a card advantage engine because of the discard one. You want a little bit of like, you want some good units, obviously, to take advantage of this. And interestingly enough, the way that the interaction works with making copies of units with LeBlanc, she says, play a ready reflection unit token there. It becomes a copy of another unit there. And they've errated this to like make it a delayed trigger or something. But anyways, the way that this works is you won't get any of the play triggers because you're playing a reflection unit token and then it becomes a copy of another unit. And so you're playing a reflection unit. You're not playing the actual like unit that it becomes a copy of. So you're not going to get any play triggers. But what this works really well with that you've probably seen online is Death Note, Death Knell triggers. You become a copy of it, and then when you die, you get the Death Knell trigger. So there's been like several Death Knell LeBlanc like themed lists that have been going around online. I covered one in my other video. I'll link it up here if you want to go check it out. It's like a pretty interesting way to build LeBlanc, but not the best in my opinion. So I wanted to go over my deck list and like what it actually looks like in my head that I like what I think is the best way to build it because there's so many ways you could go with this. I mean, it's such a unique legend that like it makes sense that nobody has pinned it quite down yet, and maybe there's not a right way to play it. Maybe there are like several ways to play it that are good. So let's just jump into this. We'll go to the battlefields later, but let's take a look at the main deck. The biggest probably change that you'll see in my deck list versus some of the ones that you see online is I'm running a different chosen champion unit. So they released two actually pretty interesting LeBlancs. Let's go over actually to see the other LeBlanc really quick. This LeBlanc has it's a 4 energy 4 might unit with backline, so it has to be assigned combat damage last, which is actually really good because as a LeBlanc deck you're going to be like stacking a bunch of units on one battlefield. That's going to be kind of your main plan, is basically just like getting an insurmountable amount of units on one battlefield. And so this backline is really important because she has a static effect that says your temporary effects at battlefields don't trigger. And so this is what's going to let you kind of reach a critical mass of might on one battlefield. And the reason I chose this LeBlanc over the other one is because this is such a more unique effect. Like let's look at the other LeBlanc. The other LeBlanc is 3 energy, 1 power. Let me make sure this is coming up. Okay, cool. 3 mana, 1 power, 3 might, assault 1, whatever. No one cares about assault in a blue yellow deck. But it has Death Knell, draw 1. If it's your beginning phase, draw 2 instead. And so these Death Knell centered LeBlanc decks are playing this one because if it's your beginning phase, you draw 2 instead. So if you have something like Karthus, you're going to be drawing a lot of cards. You're going to draw 2 if you make a copy of this LeBlanc and it dies. Then Karthus says double your double your death knell triggers. And so you're going to be drawing 4 cards whenever that LeBlanc dies with temporary. And I don't think that's like necessarily a bad way to build LeBlanc. Like, you're going to get a lot of card advantage that way. You're going to be doing like a lot of really cool stuff, a lot of very like commandery stuff if you've played Magic. And like, I think it's good. You're going to get a lot of value, but I don't know if you're necessarily going to like win the game. And so I think this LeBlanc is like very unique because it lets you kind of build around keeping your tokens as long as possible. And then again, yeah, like reaching a critical mass that your opponent can't overcome. And you just like keep holding one battlefield until you win. And so LeBlanc Everywhere at Once is what we're going to build around. Cool name too, Everywhere at Once. Reminds me of that movie. Okay, so let's take a look at the deck list. I don't know if I necessarily want to start from like the low drops. Let's look at the units first. So the units that we're going to pick, the units that we pick, obviously Death Knell is still good with LeBlanc, so we still want some Death Knell units. So we have 3 Soaring Scout, Channel 1 Rune Exhausted, great 2 mana unit. Make sure you have that consistent 2 mana like turn 1 play. And then when it dies, if you make a copy of it, you're basically like discarding a card to Channel 1 Rune Exhausted is kind of the trade-off, which is like a fine trade-off. We also have Watchful Sentry, Death Knell, draw 1, so you're basically like discarding 1, drawing 1 whenever you play it, or sorry, whenever you make a copy of it. And so like if you're making a lot of copies of Watchful Sentry, it's just a nice way for like to have card selection, which is always kind of nice. So we can discard a card that maybe we don't need right now and try and draw into some of our other better pieces. And so those are going to be the main Death Knell units that we play. The other 2 mana unit that we're going to play is this Petal Pixie. I have 1 might for each of your units with temporary at my battlefield. So because the legend is like making, these reflection tokens that have temporary, it combos really well with Petal Pixie, especially if you make a copy of Petal Pixie. So like one thing you can do as a strong like early game play is you play your Petal Pixie on 1, turn 2, you untap, go put your Petal Pixie at one of the battlefields, conquer, and then make a copy of it. The copy has temporary and copies all the attributes of Petal Pixie. So now both of these will get +1. So already you'll have 6 might at this battlefield because both of those Petal Pixies will get the buff from the copy that you made that has temporary. So on your turn 2, presumably you'll have 4 runes now, which means now you can play your LeBlanc Everywhere at Once at the battlefield that you have the Petal Pixies at. So you'll have a Petal Pixie, a temporary Petal Pixie, and a LeBlanc with backline, so they have to get through your Petal Pixies first. So you effectively have 10 might on that battlefield as early as turn 2. And so that is just like a really, really strong early game play that, especially if you're like keeping your copy of Petal Pixie around, I thought this was such an strong early game play that I wanted to build around this. Especially around LeBlanc Everywhere at Once. So those are the 2 mana units. We also play 2 Keeper of Masks. This is a new one from Unleashed. It has Hidden, so you can play it for effectively just 1 power. Has temporary, so you have to kill it, but if you have LeBlanc Everywhere at Once, you just keep these around. When you play me, play 2 reflection unit tokens here. They become copies of me. And so you can hide this for free at your Petal Pixie battlefield. If your opponent tries to come and like conquer it, then you'll reveal Keeper of Masks. It has temporary, and then you're going to make 2 reflection unit tokens that are copies of it. So you have 3 extra units with temporary at that battlefield at reaction speed. So like without your opponent anticipating any of this, Petal Pixie and the copy of your Petal Pixie are both going to get +3 might from the Keeper of the Masks entering. So your Petal Pixie and your copy of Petal Pixie, God, this is going to get confusing to talk about, but your Petal Pixie and your copy of Petal Pixie are both going to get an extra 3 might. So the amount of temporary units that you'll have at the battlefield would be the copy of Petal Pixie you made and 3 Keeper of Masks. So you'll get this Petal Pixie at +4, 6 might. Your copy of Petal Pixie will be at 6 might. You'll have the LeBlanc at 4 might, so now we're at 16 might. And then you'll have the 3 might from these. So you'll be at 19 might as early as turn 2, which is just like such an insane amount of value that this deck can pull off as early as turn 2 because this is hidden. Maybe this goes up to 3. Honestly, Keeper of Masks might go up to 3. It might be such a good combo with Petal Pixie that it needs to go up to 3. I'll think about that. But we already have like so many 2-drop units that maybe we don't need that. It's tough. Maybe you cut like one of these scouts or something to make room for Keeper of Masks, because this card has actually like really impressed me specifically in this deck. I don't think it's that great anywhere else, but pretty good here. So let's look at the units beyond the 2-drop units. So obviously we want good units to make copies of with LeBlanc. And so the 3 like kind of top end units, this deck doesn't really have a top end because you usually want that like really strong burst of early game pressure and then just like keep making copies of stuff. But I've chosen Galio, Indefatigable. Yeah, let's go with that. 3 energy, 1 power, so super cheap unit for 6 might. And the downside is Galio has tank, and it says I don't deal combat damage. And so you have 6 might, and so this is kind of, again, leaning into our strategy of we're just going to hold one battlefield and have as much might on that battlefield as we can. Just like make it completely insurmountable for our opponent to get past all of this might. And so if you make a copy of Galio, if you go second, you play Galio turn 1. Turn 2, you go conquer a battlefield. You make a copy of it. You have 12 might on that battlefield now, turn 2. Like, also just insane. It doesn't deal combat damage, but that's fine. If your opponent doesn't have 12 might and they come in and try and conquer your battlefield the Galio's at, and they don't have enough might to overtake the Galios, then they'll just get recalled. Basically, it would end in a tie. The attacker gets recalled, and you keep control of that battlefield. And so it's kind of okay that you don't deal combat damage. What we really care about is cheap cost and really big power or might. The other one is Cruel Patron. This card is so cool. It says, as an additional cost to play me, kill a friendly unit. So, like, not really a cost in our deck because we have several 2-drop Death Knell units, and we're making tokens of stuff, which, like, whatever. The tokens have temporary. We can discard them as fodder, like, whatever. We don't really care. And so what we really care about in this deck is cheap units that have a lot of might. So again, this fits that theme. 4 energy, 6 might. A common turn 2 play here as well is you'll go like 2-drop Death Knell unit, like the Scout or the Watchful Sentry. Turn 2, go conquer a battlefield, make a copy of it. Let's say Watchful Sentry. Play your Cruel Patron to that battlefield, kill the token copy of the Watchful Sentry, and then get the Death Knell trigger, so you'll draw. And then now you have 7 might, I guess, at that battlefield, which not as good as like our Petal Pixie play, early game play, but still like really strong. And then when you hold and you come back in, you make a copy of Cruel Patron and get another 6 might. And because a Cruel Patron says, as an additional cost to play me, kill a friendly unit, when you make a token copy of this with LeBlanc, you don't have to pay the additional cost to play it because you're not playing it. You're playing the Reflection unit, but it becomes a copy of Cruel Patron. And so you kind of get to circumvent the kill a friendly unit. So whenever you make copies of Cruel Patron, don't kill your stuff because you don't have to. And then the third and last big unit that we play is Zilean Time Mage. So this is 5 energy, 1 power, and 5 might. Once each turn, if you would play a token unit while I'm at a battlefield, you can play that token and an additional copy of it instead. And so I read this card and I was like, oh man, this is so good in LeBlanc. You'll make 2 reflection units, and both of those reflection units will then become copies of the things that. Um, Actually, does it work that way? I guess I should double check that, like, the reflection token copies that you make with Zilean will keep like the characteristic of becoming a copy of something else. Because technically, LeBlanc Legend makes a reflection copy of something, or sorry, makes a reflection unit token, and then has a delayed trigger that becomes a copy of another unit at that location. I think Zilean would copy that delayed trigger because, like, if you're creating a copy of a token, you should like also copy all the things that are associated with the token. But I could be wrong about that. In which case, Zilean won't be good. But I'll make sure to like put a little note here to see if that's correct or not. But anyways, if it works the way I think it does, Zilean will double the tokens that you're making, essentially. So one play that I like to do is like, go conquer with something, play Zilean to that battlefield. It comes back into your turn. You hold, discard. You'll make a copy of Zilean. Because Zilean doubles or adds an additional copy of the tokens you play, you make 2 Zileans. So now you have 3 Zileans at this battlefield. If you're able to hold that again, because you have 15 might, because you have 3 Zileans on this battlefield now. If you're able to hold that again, each of those Zileans will trigger again. So it's going to get confusing, but LeBlanc will trigger. You'll discard a card. You'll make a token copy of Zilean. The first Zilean will see that and make 2 copies instead of 1 copy. The second Zilean will see your 2 copies and add an additional one. So now it's going to make 3 copies. Then the third copy of Zilean will see those 3 and make another additional one. So you'll make 4 copies of Zilean. So basically, you'll get an additional reflection token for each Zilean that is at that battlefield. So if you have 3 Zileans there, when you hold with LeBlanc, you'll make 4 copies of whatever you're trying to do. And so you can keep, this exponentially going with Zilean, or you can make, a bunch of Gallios. You can make a bunch of Cruel Patrons. Like, the main goal is just like making as many token copies on one battlefield as possible. And then LeBlanc will make sure that their temporary effects don't trigger. Importantly, like, because LeBlanc is so important to your game plan, maybe you want a second copy of this in the main deck somewhere, but you really want to be making token copies of LeBlanc as well. So if you have an opportunity to make a token copy of LeBlanc at the battlefield you're holding, definitely take it, because if your opponent happens to have like a Falling Star to kill LeBlanc or a Rebuke to remove LeBlanc, and then it goes back into your turn, all of your temporary units are going to die if LeBlanc is not there. So you have to kind of like be proactive in the board state that you're setting up and make sure you have a lot of repetition. So have extra copies of LeBlanc, have extra copies, like don't get so greedy and, make a bunch of copies of Zilean when you only have 1 LeBlanc there. You like make sure you have a couple LeBlancs there before you start expanding and really like going crazy, because this is really like the glue that holds it all together. So those are the units. It can get really out of control really quickly. It's super fun to play. But let's look at the spells now. So we'll start from the beginning. So now we have Sacrifice. So I know I was poo-pooing on Sacrifice last video, but I have come around a little bit. I think Sacrifice has definitely a specific niche to fill. I think it's good in equipment decks. I think it's good in like decks like this where you're getting a lot of extra value from your units that are expendable for the most part. This Sacrifice mainly only works with Zilean, and so it could get cut down. There's 2 copies right now. It could get cut down from two copies down to like one or even just sideboarded. But I think that the card advantage of being able to like kill your extra Zilean copies might be worth it. Um, this deck, because you have to discard to make your reflection tokens, it is pretty card hungry, and so you're going to see that theme in the spells that we're playing quite a lot. And so sacrifice lets you draw two, and then channel. It's just like a really cheap way to get some extra card advantage and take advantage of all of the units that you're going to be playing to your battlefield. Next, even more card advantage. We're going to have downstage dramatics. It is reaction, repeat two, draw one for 2 mana. So if you choose to repeat this, it'll be basically a 4 mana spell to draw two, which is essentially what Consult the Past is, but without the hidden and reaction speed. Oh, this is reaction speed. Without the hidden element. But you get the upside of like being able to play it for 2 if you want to cantrip. So if you want to get rid of downstage dramatics and draw another card instead. Typically you want to be playing this for 4 energy, not 2, because that way it actually gives you card advantage instead of just like card selection, which is like you're basically exchanging your downstage dramatics for something else. So you really want to be playing this for 4, but we want as much card advantage basically as possible. We've also got Facebreaker, stun a friendly unit and an enemy unit at the same battlefield. It has hidden and action speed, but you can play reaction if you hide it. It's just since we're a hold deck, like that's the whole theme of our deck is grabbing one battlefield and never letting go. You want some way to like protect that. So if you're like basically like an emergency button. So if an Irelia is coming in for like 15 might or something, and you're like, oh crap, I only have 8 might in my battlefield this turn. My Galio is gonna die, whatever. You can use this to kind of like cancel out their combat for that turn. So you can stun the enemy unit that's coming in and attacking. I've really been impressed by this card in my testing because you have a lot of units that like the Scout and the Watchful Sentry that are like not really contributing to your might that much anyways. So you pick that as your friendly unit that's getting stunned, so you're losing 1 might, but then you're stunning their best unit, and so hopefully reducing like a majority of their might and turning things into your favor. It's also just a 2 energy, no power action speed spell, which isn't bad either. If you have like your Keeper of Masks hidden at the battlefield and you can't hide the Facebreaker there, cool, just play Facebreaker for 2 energy, like no big deal. And so I think this is a really good card, and we are able to take advantage of it pretty well because we have these like just stupid little guys that like we're trying to kill. So been liking Facebreaker a lot. We've also got Hidden Blade. I think this card is so good. I've talked about it a lot in my previous video. I compared it to Sacrifice, and like I don't think you should be playing Sacrifice until you have like more Hidden Blades in your deck, unless you're an equipment deck. If you're an equipment deck, go for it. You can play Sacrifice. But Hidden Blade essentially is like 1 power if you hide it. 1 power, kill a unit at a battlefield, its controller draws 2. A majority of the time, honestly, okay, maybe not a majority of the time, but like I kill my own unit a lot of the time. Like being able to kill your unit that you don't care about, especially if it's a Watchful Sentry, and draw 2, that's so good. Like 1 power, so basically free. Well, you're deramping yourself, but free mana-wise for that turn. Kill your Watchful Sentry, Death Knell triggers, draw 1, then Hidden Blade, draw 2, so you're drawing 3 from killing your Watchful Sentry, or even like the token copy of your Watchful Sentry, and losing the Hidden Blade. Like it's really good card advantage. So I kind of think of this as like a draw spell that also says you can kill your opponent's stuff if you want. And like, yes, I have killed my opponent's units with Hidden Blade, but it still feels kind of bad. You're giving him 2 cards. Like it's actually kind of like a mediocre removal spell, if in my opinion, but uh, because it's like such good card advantage and you can use it on yourself, I love this card. It's very flexible, good card advantage, and that's all we want. When if you have expendable units, which this deck does. We've got 1 salvage in here. This could probably just go to the sideboard, honestly. Um, I'll get into my sideboard later, but it's basically like cards I want to try out because this is early Unleash testing. So 1 salvage in here. I expect Aurora to be like all over the place. So 1 salvage main deck like is not insane to me. And it like cantrips. It discards itself and draws 1 basically if you want. So also with like Guardian's Angels. I mean Annie just won the big regionals or regional qualifiers, and they played like Longsword. I guess you can kill a Longsword if you want. You can kill a Spinning Axe. Salvage is just like a good card. So I don't think it's crazy to main deck 1. Mirror Image. Okay, so this is LeBlanc's signature spell. Choose a unit, play a Ready Reflection unit token to your base. It becomes a copy of that unit. Give it temporary. So again, like I said, because we're playing the 4 mana LeBlanc, not the draw one, not the diddle yourself one. We want to be winning the game. This is like exceptionally good because we can circumvent the temporary downside, the literal temporary downside. And so importantly also it says choose a unit and then basically create a copy of it. Play a ready copy of it, by the way. But it doesn't say choose a friendly unit. So you get to copy the best thing on the board, whether that is your Zilean, whether that is your opponent's, I don't know, Ferris Forerunner. Whether it's like if you're copying Ferris Forerunner, oh my gosh, that has a death knell trigger, and then you make 2 3 mechs at your base. So good, like crazy. Especially then if you're like stealing their unit, and then when you hold with the copy of their unit, you're like making more copies of it and getting even more Ferris Forerunners. Oh my gosh, like that's the dream. Actually, I think the dream is make a copy of their dragon, make a copy of their elder dragon, and then like all your units are starting to do like lethal damage no matter how much damage they deal. And so like that's probably the dream. But mirror image is like, yes, it's dependent on your opponent's units, but they need to play good units, right? Like they're trying to win the game too. So I think it's okay to like rely on them playing good units for mirror image to like take advantage of. Worst case scenario with mirror image, you're paying 3 energy, 2 power to make a copy of like Zilean or LeBlanc or Galio or something, and like getting an extra 6 might or something, or another copy of LeBlanc, which like I don't think is a bad exchange either. It also is ready, and so you play it to your base, and so you can choose where it goes. You can send it to the base that you're already occupying, or you can send it to the enemy base. So if you're like copying their dragon or something, and then you make a ready dragon and you send the dragon into the other base that they're controlling, or the other battlefield they're controlling, like that's a really good play too. So I think this card is super flexible, can't be defied, which obviously I've been talking in my other videos too about how I care a lot if a signature spell can be defied or not. This one can't. So you're getting their dragon like most of the time. It's only 3 mana too, so if they like hard bargain or abandon, like if they abandon and counter it and bounce it back to your hand, that sucks. But like you can play it again. It's not so expensive of a spell that abandon or hard bargain is going to completely counter it and like counteract your whole turn. And so I think this like energy cost falls into like that sweet spot of not too expensive that it takes up your whole turn and not defiable. And like I it gets extra points from me because of that. Okay. Consult the past. 4 energy, you can hide it if you want, so pay just 1 power. reaction, draw 2. Such good card advantage here. You are paying 1 power to draw 2. Like, that's insane. That's so good. um, like, this deck cares a lot about card advantage. And so if you can pay 1 power and draw 2 cards, you're essentially going +1, right? Because you're giving up you're playing the Consult the Past to replace itself and also gain another card. So you're going +1 on that interaction. And so any ways you can get more cards in your hand are good. So along with that, our last spell is 1 Progress Day. I just kind of wanted a little bit more draw, and I think Progress Day is like fine as a 1 of. You like could go to 2 if you really wanted extra draw, but like this card is susceptible to like Hard Bargain or Abandon or stuff. And unless you have 12 runes, like, and they abandon and bounce this back to your hand, you're not playing this card again. So I think I like just 1 copy. 6 energy, 1 power, draw 4. You're getting +3 cards from that interaction. And so I think I like this at 1 copy. So that's the deck. Let's look at the battlefields. As you can see, there's like a very strong hold theme here. Like, we have a specific game plan and we are fully in on that game plan. So our battlefields are going to carry that sentiment. So when you hold here, draw 1, Grove of the Godwillow. This is just a great like extra card advantage. Your plan is to hold anyways. So if you can hold on Grove of the Godwillow, you're always going to have that extra draw to like fuel your reflection tokens. So this is an excellent card for card advantage. Duskrow's Lab. At the start of your beginning phase, you can kill a unit you control here to draw 1. Again, more card advantage. If you make a copy of your Watchful Sentry and you kill the copy for this, then you're drawing 1 from the Watchful Sentry Death Knell trigger. You're drawing 1 from this. So lots of card advantage there. What does LeBlanc say? When you conquer or hold. Okay, so importantly, like, because Duskrow's Lab triggers at the start of your beginning phase, Duskrow's Lab is going to trigger before you get your hold trigger from LeBlanc. So you won't be able to like LeBlanc make your reflection token copy and then Duskrow's Lab and kill the copy you just made and draw 1. So like keep that in mind, I guess. And then lastly, units here with temporary have shield. You're going to make a lot of temporary units, let me tell you. Especially if you have this Keeper of Masks. These all have temporary. You're going to make, when you play this, you're going to have 3 copies of Keeper of Masks, all with temporary. So you're going to have a 2 mana, 6 might, basically, when you play Keeper of Masks to Black Flame Altar. And hopefully, you can play your LeBlanc on there too, so you're not losing that might at the start of your turn. But this card is really, really good for just like boosting the total might of your battlefield that you're holding. So that is the deck. It's been really fun to play, honestly. But of course, it does have some downsides too. So one, like, because we're so all in on this holding game plan, one thing I've been trying to figure out is like, how do you gain tempo? Because if your opponent is also on a holding plan and they are just putting a bunch of might, at the other battlefield, how do you eventually get all of your units over there to win the game? Since you have to conquer both battlefields in order to win the game to get your 8th point. I've been thinking about that a little bit. So like there are some other cards that you could consider to try and remedy that. Power Nexus is a really interesting battlefield. When you hold here, you can pay 4 to score 1 point. And so if you have like 60 might on your battlefield, which is like not out of the realm of possibilities, and you hold and you're at 7 points, you can Power Nexus, pay your 4 power, and then score your last point. I believe if you're at 7, that should win you the game. And so You could do that. I think there's another battlefield that also scores you points. Oh god. No, let's look at just battlefields. Power Nexus, not that. Not that. Not that. Maybe there's not. Okay, so just Power Nexus. So you could play this if you wanted to. Um, yeah, it's interesting. You'd have to give up like one of these other really good battlefields. Maybe it's probably the Dusk Rose Lab, but like that's really good too. So it's a toss up. I think this is interesting because it lets you like actually win the game. But that is one thing I've been struggling with this deck is like how do we get control of the other battlefield in order to win? Because will that work? I guess you can go. I guess you can hold to 7 and like then get the 8th point when you hold back to your turn. But like if your opponent is ahead on points and they're also doing the same thing and you're behind 1 point, like you're never gaining points. You're always like getting your 1 point a turn. And so it's a very slow burn for this deck. So any way to like try and increase that tempo is like one thing I've been trying to figure out with this deck. Also, this deck, unfortunately, is very weak to Elder Dragon. And that's one thing I've been trying to fix with this deck as well. You can like try and Hidden Blade the Elder Dragons if they come in. Let's look at Elder Dragon because this is a new card. So the problem with Elder Dragon is it makes all damage that your opponent controls or whoever the controller of Dragon is lethal damage. Any amount of your damage is enough to kill enemy units. That means that let's say they play their Elder Dragon, it's readied, and they come and attack your battlefield that has 10 units there. No matter how much might you have, let's say you have 60 might there, you have 10 Galio units there. Elder Dragon would basically be able to assign just 1 damage to each of those Galios, and it would be enough to kill each of them. So the 10 might from Elder Dragon would be enough to kill your 60 might on that battlefield. Not only that, but it also says when you play me, choose up to 1 enemy unit at each location and deal 1 to them. And so they're also just gonna like kill a bunch of your units when it enters for free. Well, if you only have units at one battlefield, hopefully they're just killing one thing, but it's really the static ability that's a big problem. Because that means any units that they send are now just like automatically trading with your units, which is not what you want to do. Like that is horrible. And so if they happen to combo the Elder Dragon with Flurry of Blades, which I've seen in some Aurora decks as well, I think this is a really cool combo. It's a little fragile because like you can defy the Flurry of Blades. But it's reaction speed, 1 energy, deal 1 to all units at battlefields. So if they have their dragon and they Flurry of Blades, they will wipe your entire battlefield. And unfortunately, blue-yellow does not have very many good counter spells. There are none in this deck. In fact, I'm not sure if blue-yellow has any counter spells actually. But so those are like just know that those are issues with the deck, and probably what's gonna like keep it from being a top contender. But if you can figure out, the way to deal with those problems, like the tempo problem and the dragon problem, then I think this deck will become really, really good. Like I've been very impressed with it in testing. Like I said, the only downsides are if you're going up against an Aurora deck and they get a dragon down, it's very bad news. But this deck can get really out of control really fast. It's been super, super cool. I highly encourage you to try it, especially if you just want to like this is a great Nexus Knight deck. I was considering it for the RQ that I'm going to next month. But because of the dragon problem, I like haven't quite figured that out yet. So it's fallen a little bit on my list, but it's super fun to play. Okay, let's look at the sideboard. The sideboard right now not fleshed out at all because like I said, this is early Unleashed testing. So like I don't know what I want in the sideboard. I probably want some salvages. I probably want, I mean, maybe some of these cards. So let's check it out. This is also an excuse for me to just like talk about some of the cards that I think are cool. All right, Shadow's Call from Unleashed, 2 energy. Choose a friendly unit without temporary. Give it temporary. Draw 2. This card is so good in my opinion. Yellow is really good at making tokens of things like LeBlanc. Um, what is it? The Vanguard Armory that makes 3 recruit tokens. Yellow is a good token color, and so you can choose a friendly unit without temporary. So like one of your one might recruits in yellow in general, not in this deck, but choose a unit you don't care about, draw 2, and then because it doesn't kill the unit, it just gives it temporary, which is like effectively killing it, but killing it on your next beginning phase. You can also hidden blade it or sacrifice it. So if like I had my original Zilean that doesn't have temporary at a battlefield, and I was like, all right, let's Shadows Call the Zilean, draw 2, cool. Let's sacrifice the Zilean that has temporary, draw 2, channel a rune. It was gonna die anyways because of temporary. But I got the value from Shadow's Call and the value from like Hidden Blade or Sacrifice for 1 unit. And so the combo between like Hidden Blade or Sacrifice and Shadow's Call is a really good card advantage engine that I've been putting in a lot of my decks. So I would highly recommend picking up cards of these and like thinking about that in your decks as a card advantage engine. It gets even better in this deck because like obviously, yes, we're going to have a lot of tokens that have temporary. But like just pick your OG units that don't have temporary and then hope that LeBlanc everywhere at once sticks around and they can't kill it. And then you don't even have to worry, your temporary effects don't trigger. So like it's basically just 2 energy draw 2, which is a way like such a good rate. We haven't seen that good of a rate on a card yet. Like I guess we have Consult the Passage 1 power draw 2. And so this is like as good as you're going to get by just paying energy, I think. I think the next best thing would be which one? It was on the tip of my tongue. There's another energy draw 2 one, but this is like the best you're going to get for that rate. I've been seeing a lot of people put Smoke and Mirrors in their LeBlanc deck. It's hidden, action speed, unless it's hidden, then reaction speed. Choose a unit you control and another unit you control at a different location. If at least one of them has temporary, move each to the other's location, draw 1. This is a very, very niche card, and I don't think it belongs in LeBlanc decks the way that they're being built right now. Like, the Death Knell ones and this hold themed LeBlanc, I don't think play this card. And so I've seen some deck lists including it. I just don't think it really has a place in LeBlanc. I think this is better in like Lilia, where you're taking advantage of a unit moving, or like blue purple. I think is an interesting spot for this card because like they have things like Tide Turner or Treasure Hunter or things that care about being moved. So you're getting some extra value from moving those things. You also need to have a unit with temporary, so that's one caveat. And it also replaces itself. So I think it's good in like those style of decks. I don't think it's as good here. So just wanted to shout this one out because I've been seeing some LeBlanc decks play it. I don't think it gives you enough value. Like 2 energy replace itself, sure, is fine. But then you're like just switching some of your units. I don't think it's good enough of the time, especially not in a hold archetype. So just wanted to shout that one out. Cull the Weak. Cull the Weak is interesting. I've been cutting it from a lot of my decks because you don't have control over what unit you're killing. It's really good early, and I think if Irelia is like tier 1 deck, or obviously it's tier 1 deck, but like number 1 deck and like 60% of the meta or something is Irelia, then Cull the Weak gets good because like they're not playing a lot of units. but I don't think it's good enough right. I think it's lost a little bit of its steam. You don't get to pick what your opponent is killing, and you're like killing one of your own units, which isn't a downside for this deck, but it's just like not as much control as I would like it to be. It does get past deflect, which is why it's good against Aurelia, um, and it does get around things like Baron Nashor or the new like giant Master Yi. That if by some miracle they can get to, if some by some miracle they can get to level 16, it can't be chosen by enemy spells and abilities. It gets past that, so they would have, if Master Yi Unstoppable is their only unit, they'd have to kill their Master Yi. So I think it has some niche um, circumstances, but I've been cutting it from a lot of my decks in like to play Hidden Blade or to play more like Shadow's Call, salvages, things like that. So okay, next Teemo. Teemo from Origins. This would require, this cannot be in the sideboard, by the way. This would, I just wanted to talk about this card. This card would require a whole different build around. That would be like all hidden cards, which I haven't, you're playing, I haven't seen actually a lot of the blue yellow hidden cards. We have Consult the Past, good start. Oh, we have Keeper of Masks. Oh, all right, we're cooking. You'd have to, but you could do like an oops all hidden deck and like make copies of Teemo. And whenever your opponent comes in to defend, each of those Teemos would trigger. And so you'd like be able to just like reveal a bunch of hidden cards, deal a bunch of damage to their units. That sounds like a really fun way to build LeBlanc. Um, Obviously, like it would be pretty reliant on finding your Teemos, um, because it can't be your chosen champion. But doesn't that sound so sick? Like, please somebody build that for Nexus Night and let me know how it goes. But just wanted to shout that out because I think that's a really cool use case of LeBlanc. Baited Hook. Baited Hook is interesting, and it's not included in the main deck here because it's like we don't have good enough units, I think, to play Baited Hook. But if we did include some good units, like Otacon is interesting. Let's look at Otacon because that's a new one. Otacon. 7 might unit, you can kill a friendly unit as an additional cost to play me. If you do, I cost 1 less for each energy it costs and power less for each power it costs. And so I believe your token copies should share the like costs of the OG. So if you make a copy of Galio and sacrifice it to play Otacon, you'll get a 3 energy discount and a 1 power discount because that's what Galio costs. As ganking, and when I attack the defender, must kill one of their units here. So this is like maybe one way to get over that like tempo hump that I was talking about where your units are kind of all stacked up on one battlefield and you can't get over to the other one. So this would be an interesting include, and Baited Hook to like get your Otacon would be kind of cool as well because you ignore all the costs, including the power costs. And this is just like a solid unit. So and you have a lot of like 6 might units, like Galio and Cruel Patron are both 6 might. So if you Baited Hook and kill one of these, and you hit the Otacon, it's 7 might, so you can get it off Baited Hook. So I think there could be a cool Baited Hook version of this deck. Maybe that's what I try next. I think that would be pretty sick. But I just haven't tried it yet. But I did want to give it a shout out because I think this could be a really cool Baited Hook deck. Okay, next. Mage Seeker Investigator. 4 energy, 4 might. Opponents must pay 1 power for each unit beyond the first to move multiple units to my battlefield at the same time. This card might be trash. I'm willing to admit that. I can say that, yeah, this is probably trash. But like the idea of making a bunch of copies of Mage Seeker Investigator is so funny to me. Like my opponent, like let's say I have 3 Mage Seekers and my opponent has to pay 3 power to move multiple units to the battlefield that they're trying to attack. It's just like so funny and like maybe too silly, but and too gimmicky, but like I wanted to shout it out because I think that's a funny interaction. But unfortunately, like this only taxes units after the first. So if they have a giant dragon, like I said, was a problem, and they just move the dragon to the battlefield, it can just wipe out all of your units, and like this doesn't help you at all. So probably a little too gimmicky, but really funny, I think. Okay, Echo Recurrent has Accelerate, 5 energy, 1 power, 5 might. Death Knell, recycle me to ready your runes. When I die, I get the effect. So Echo is also a card that I've been seeing in like some more Death Knell centered versions of LeBlanc. And it's interesting because I thought I was thinking that you could like make token copies of Echo, kill them all with like an Otacon or a what's the other one? It's like Captain. Is it Captain? Oh, Commander Ledros, I think it is. Commander Ledros, yeah. As you play me, you can kill any number of friendly units as an additional cost. So I would think like you could play, make a bunch of copies of Echo, kill all of them, and then get each of their Death Knell effects. Tap your runes for mana, float the mana, get the Death Knell trigger, untap them, tap them again for all your mana, and just float like 20 mana in a turn. I don't think it'll work that way because of the way this is worded. So it says recycle me to ready your runes. I believe I'll have to look this up as well. If you make a token copy of Echo, you can't recycle the token. So I don't think you'll get the ready your runes effect. I think even if multiple Echoes die, you'll only get the originals effect because that's the only one you can actually recycle. Same with Karthus. If you double the Death Knell trigger, you only have one Echo to recycle. So I believe you'll only be able to get the Death Knell trigger once. So again, I'll make a little note here to, tell you guys if that's possible or not. But an interesting card. I've seen it included in some LeBlanc lists, but might not work the way some people want it to. Lastly, Machine Evangel. Actually, this is not the last one I want to talk about, but Machine Evangel, 5 energy, 1 power, 4 might. Death Knell, play 3/1 might, recruit unit tokens into your base. This is just like another Death Knell trigger card that I think hasn't been played a whole lot in some of the Death Knell LeBlanc decks I've been seeing. But I think it's like pretty good and cool to make copies of, and like a way to generate some additional might in your base that then you can send to the other battlefields to try and gain some tempo that way. But like, it's probably not good enough. But okay, there's one other card that I wanted to look at, which is a new one, which is the blue buff guy, the Blue Sentinel. So Blue Sentinel is 4 energy, 1 power, 4 might. Shield 2. Your hold effects for holding here trigger an additional time. When I hold, add power at the start of your next main phase. So the original idea for this deck, and then it didn't end up working the way I wanted it to, but the original idea for this deck I had was to hold with Blue Sentinel, trigger the LeBlanc Legend twice, because your holding effects trigger twice, make even more Blue Sentinels, and then your hold effects trigger even more, and then make even more copies, and then it got out of control that way. But unfortunately, LeBlanc says, when you conquer a hold, you can discard 1 and exhaust me to play a Ready Reflection unit token. So even if you double LeBlanc's triggers, if you're not able to exhaust her, she's already exhausted, the rest of those triggers are going to fizzle. So this didn't work the way I wanted it to. But I think it's still a really cool card that I wanted to shout out. That is like so unique, gives you extra power. Like it gives you, because it counts itself as a hold effect, you'll basically get 2 power at the start of your turn, which is very good with Power Nexus. Like I was just talking about. When you hold here, you can pay 4 power to score 1 point. And so Power Nexus with the Blue Sentinel will also get doubled. So you'll get 2 Power Nexus triggers on the chain. Your Blue Sentinel will give you 2 power. So if you hold with Power Nexus and your Sentinel, you'll get 2 power, and then you need to pay 6 power to resolve the other 2 Power Nexus triggers, and you'll get 2 points plus your hold point. So that's like a really good tempo swing that you can do by holding at Power Nexus with a Blue Sentinel. So maybe I'll try and build a deck around that because that sounds really cool too. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being like really good because that's like such a cool interaction. Um, so so many cool cards from Unleashed, so many cool interactions. It's really got like my brewer's brain, like, thinking of all the possibilities. And so I've been really liking Unleashed a lot. I think there's a lot of really cool decks that you can build, a lot of interesting legends. I think the design space that they've created is really interesting. I think they've just done a really good job so far. Um, Even though there's like some errata stuff that they and rules stuff that they're trying to figure out, like their designs are all really cool. So like props to the design team for that because it's getting really good, and I wouldn't be surprised if this gets if the game is gonna like hit its stride pretty soon. So that's all. Thanks for hanging out with me and looking at this crazy LeBlanc deck. I don't know how good it's gonna be. It's been cool in my testing, but just don't play against any Elder Dragons, and you'll probably be fine. Yeah, but that's it. Let me know if you try out the deck. Let me know if you try out the deck and it ends up being good. If you win a Nexus night with it, please subscribe. That helps me out a lot. And leave a comment. Helps the video get some more recognition. And yeah, thanks for hanging out. I'll have another video in a couple days probably. All right, see ya.